What is it? Do you think it's an advantage to be to start your career in New York City? Because, and we talked about this before you came into the room here. If you can handle it here, the way people are, the way the fan, they're pretty honest. Yeah, but it can be pretty tough. Yeah. But if you can handle that, I feel like you can handle a lot of different places around the country. Yeah. Is that true? Do you have that confidence from starting here?
You know what it is? I think it is in New York. It's like, obviously, they've made all the songs. You make it here, you can make it anywhere, all that. There's a truth to that because I think in New York, like specifically like with comedy, there's such a every big comic comes through New York and comes to New York, right? And so, also even what I mentioned about like the open mic scene here, like where you begin, like basically like the minor leagues kind of, at other cities, it's all like a regular audience that watches the comics. Like somebody will pay $10 to come out with their girlfriend or wife or whatever, and they watch this comic. That's not how it is in New York. In New York City, you're on at 5 o'clock. The audience is comics. The audience is people that hate you. So you're already starting out low. So if you can make it up through those ranks, then you've almost developed this skill set and this thickness that the other comics from other cities don't have the opportunity to have. And also it's a numbers game. Like Malcolm Gladwell says, 10 years, 10,000 hours, whatever you get. We can get our 10,000 hours here in New York City much quicker because in other cities, even the big scenes like Austin, Texas, and Chicago and LA, they don't have nearly the amount of stage time and opportunity we have here. When I was starting with Sam Morrill and Mark Norman and these guys, our goal every week was to get on stage 50 times a week, 50 times a week.
No way.
Every week. And if you didn't get 50, you were kind of like, then go move out of New York then if you can't even get 50. Where other cities, the top comics are not getting 50 times a month.
Yeah.
We're getting it a week, 200 sets a month because you just do it and you're in this game and it's like, and the thing is here is like, for example, Comedy Cellar is like the most legendary comedy club, right? It's the be all end all. It's the top one, and it's legendary. And the why it is because when you get in there, the way it used to be, some things have changed about it now. World's changed, whatever. But in the old days, right, when only way in to that club is you would have to get recommended by 2 other Comedy Cellar comedians, and the Comedy Cellar comedians at that time would only be top of the top, cream of the crop professionals. So for you to even get on the radar to even know one of these other comedians, you already had to be pretty good. Yeah. You already had to be good enough that some of these legends of comedy have picked you and said, you know what, why don't you come open for me? Why don't you basically come on my team and work with me? So that is the first step. Then the second step is the booker. Booked there 30 years, Esti, Israeli, woman, great legend in comedy. She would say, okay, you come down if, you want to get an audition. Somebody would, like Artie Lang was the guy who recommended me at that time. And he says, oh, Esti, I've been working with this kid. He's good. I think he can perform here. And she'd say, okay. And then she'd say, you just wait. And then so you're just sitting there nervous because she's there, this legendary booker, and you're watching all these guys, Chappelle and Chris Rock and all these guys going on. That's the thing. It's a great neutralizer of the Comedy Cellar. You could have a guy like Dave Chappelle, who's a living legend, go on stage, and he does the same amount of time and gets paid the same as the guy you've never heard of. If it's just the Comedy Cellar is just equal. You're back to your roots. Okay. So she's waiting, as time you're dying, your heart's beating, you're dying because you're just like, and then finally it's like 1:30 in the morning. She's like, okay, come, your turn. And so now she's sitting there in the back. You get 5 minutes. 5 minutes on the dot. If you go over 5 minutes, she doesn't want to see that because the last thing you want to do is go over the time because then it messes with the whole show. And if you go under 5 minutes, she says, well, now what happens if you get off stage early and, there's a delay in the show? So you have to nail 5 minutes. Like you have to really be like, she puts all this pressure on you on purpose because she's like, if you're going to be here and survive here, I need to know that you can handle this. So
you have a buzzer?
Yeah.
Like, you feel it?
Well, no, you just got to know your set. Like you got to be prepared at that point. It's like the tightrope walk. And she specifically waits for another big thing. She waits for later in the show, and she waits for a very well-known comic to show up and destroy. So she waits. So for me, it was Louis C.K., who was like a legend in the game. Goes on, 1 o'clock in the morning, destroys with like, this is 2012, 2013, Louis C.K., #1 comic in the world, hottest albums, whatever. So she's right, and then now me, no name, nobody. She goes, "You next," you know. And so she go, and then you have to just go up there and do it. And then, you know, I go do my set, 5 minutes. She doesn't say anything to me, nothing. So you don't even know what the hell you're supposed to do. I just left. I was just like, I don't even know. Because people were asking, Artie Lang, other comics. It's a big deal to even get an audition at those days. Yeah. They're like, what happened? And I'm like, I don't know. I just left. And then some comics like, that's not good. That's not good. And then some other comics are like, maybe. And then like a week later, she sends me an email. Oh, you were good. You need some work here, need some work there, but start sending in your availability, meaning you got in at the club. And then you give me one, and then she would give me one spot every 2-3 months, just little by little. And then as time went on, you start to get more and more if you're successful. If you go on there, and she has like little, the way it works out is good is because and I didn't know this, all the waiters and waitresses are kind of her eyes and ears because she's not there all the time. And she will report back, how was the new guy? How was he? Because they'll tell you the truth.
Wow.
So if you start to get enough good reports, oh, he did well with the crowd. He did this well. He did that well. She's more. And now, you know, all these years later, it's a good feeling to be like, you know, now when I go there, it's like we're friends, you know?
But growing up, you said earlier, you didn't really have any, did you have idols? Well, not really.
Not in comedy. Jim Carrey is a guy who I, you know, loved his movies like everyone else at that time, but he wasn't like, I didn't know his stand-up. I just knew him from the movies. Yeah. You know, I didn't have any real idols, no.
What about when you start breaking into the field? Like, did you have anybody looking up to?
So for me, the closest thing to an idol, as I'd say, is, you know, being from Queens, Brooklyn area, like, you know, we look for our own, right? That make it out there. And so Colin Quinn was on Saturday Night Live, was the Weekend Update guy. So I remember being a kid, and all of us would get together if our moms would let us, and we'd watch Colin Quinn because he sounded like us, he looked like us. Yeah. He sounded like our uncles. You know, he's a guy from Brooklyn, and so he was on SNL. So he was a guy that I'd be like, oh wow. When I would start to see him around, I'd be like, oh, that guy is someone who I looked up to. And now, you know, I try to always be grateful and never forget like how cool all this is, because like now Colin Quinn and I are like legitimate friends. And this was a guy who 20 years ago, you know, it was like a guy I saw on TV and like an idol. You know, it's like when someone, I'm sure, idolized you and then they play against you. Yeah. It's like same thing. You know, I'm like, oh, now we're friends. You know, so those guys, those moments I think for me are cool. And even the Louis C.K.'s of the world, the Bill Burrs, these guys, I know even Chris Rock. I saw him at the Knicks game last week, and you know, not that he knows me, but he, you know, says hello, gives me a pound. He sees me at the Comedy Cellar, so it's cool to be like even somewhat acknowledged, even on a small level. Where the comedy really lives best in like the smaller venues, like. Sure. Yes, you make money the bigger seats. It's just you know, at some point there's certain things that are about money. I have a family. Sure. It's like you want to make money. You want to, you know, give yourself some breathing room here. But really, it's like the best comedy. Like if you wanted to see real comedy, I would tell you to come see us at the Comedy Cellar. It's 100 seats. Yeah, that's where you're going to see the legends of the game really kill. The real I want to see how how comics live and breathe. Yeah, it's the clubs. It's Comedy Cellar. It's New York Comedy Club. It's the Stand Comedy Club. These are the great clubs of New York City.